Hello and welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? You know what? I've said that a lot. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the intro today. We're just going to get right into this because I can't memorize it. I can barely read right now. I've never done that. I have all the episodes. Tim's confused. He thought he had 17 more seconds. I threw him off.
I know. I would rather save these 17 seconds for conversation with
exactly.
Allison.
I mean, the viewers already, they're like, another intro, Zach. Come on, you can't read. Okay, so I'm interested in this. So if people are watching, they can see this. If they are listening from the podcast perspective, they won't see this. But we have our names kind of titled as a lower third, if you will, on the broadcast of this. For me, it says my handle. So at Zack Miller Says, it says Tim Ryan at Ryan TNT, and for you, it says Comedian Allison Moore.
Hey y'all. Hey.
Hello. So I'm interested in. Is that like, do you brand yourself as Comedian Allison Moore? Is that the title? How does that whole thing go, or is it just happenstance?
I know the answer to this question, and I want to see if it's changed. But
okay, what you got?
Well, I did some Google searching to do some research on Allison Moore, and if you click on the wrong Allison Moore, then it's not a good thing. So you got to put the comedian Allison Moore in there. Is that accurate, Allison?
Yes, absolutely. So the comedian piece is definitely one of my very important that it happens that way, because if people are searching for me, they might get distracted. I share the same name as a famous adult entertainer, and that is just not what I'm offering. So I try to differentiate myself in this market. So just in case people who are looking for me can find me.
We're 2 minutes into the show, and we've already had the first lesson learned about differentiating yourself from the rest of the market.
It is interesting that you said that. I didn't know that. So in my book, I talk about that. Like, people who have famous names who don't, who like an Allison Moore perspective, if you Google that and it's the wrong person, you go see the wrong person. Eric J. Olson, someone who was a guest on the show many moons ago, he used to just go by Eric Olson. Then he realized that there was someone super popular in the world named Eric Olson, so he added the J, which I think is actually his middle name, the J into his name. And many other people have done that, something like that as well. I don't think I've ever seen someone add their style of work, comedy, comedian Allison Moore, into it. But so that's interesting. Was that a hard thing to come by? How did you?
No, I'm a comedian, so
you just said, screw it, let's go.
Yeah, it just makes it. And then, okay, so there's like a couple of pieces, and I'm trying to get my ADHD brain to stay on which one of these streets to turn down with you guys. First of all, thank you.
Forgot the D in ADHD.
And that's likely. I might forget a couple of words on this episode, so be ready on the editing side.
Okay.
To help us out. But first of all, thank you guys for having me. I've been so looking forward to this. I mean, no pressure, Tim. I know we had talked about some time before saying, hey, want to be on the show, but you guys got such a big deal type of show, so you just want to show up. And so I'm really excited to be here and to meet the audience, and then also you, sir, my new best friend. So thank you so much for having me. Yay. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so the comedian Allison Moore place. So let me see. Zach trying to take me down a couple of streets here. See, I'm not always threatened by people sharing the same name. I just think that it is the person that I'm competing with. Her content is so compelling that I would forget what I was going to search for if I was looking for a comedian Allison Moore. Like, somebody is saying, hey, we want to have a comedian at our event or a speaker. I heard about this comedian person. Let's see. What's her name? Allison Moore. Oh, shoot. It does not matter if that's what you're interested in or not. I just think it's probably 90% likely that you will forgot. How did I get here? You either get sucked in or you completely want to get out, but so I just try to add.
Does that happen though, where people do that? Because if I didn't know of the person, right, and I did do a Google search, it would be very likely that would come up, right?
Yes and no. It's not really. I haven't had anybody tell me, "Oh my God, girl,
it doesn't mean it didn't happen."
You, and Well, I'm answering your question. I believe that it happens, but see, I add to it because it's really funny. So, like, I am a stand up comedian. I do perform on stage, and I lean into the irony. I'm a clean comedian, which means I don't curse or use profanity or talking vulgarity on stage. And secondly, it's a very interesting story. Like, I play a lot of play. By play, I mean I do material or events. For corporate America, I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in business and HR. That was my space before I came over into entertainment full time. So I play a lot of corporate events. I do churches. The irony that also I share the same name with a porn star and it's a white woman and I'm not either is just funny and it's content that it's like you got to deal with that pink elephant in the room, especially if somebody did say, "Oh, who's coming to the event? Let's Google her." And like, "Oh, wait a minute. I don't think
Perfect
this is
storm.
who they're bringing us." Yeah, but let me add to it. So, one of my side hustle pieces of my business is I sell coffee. So I have a coffee business and the name of the business is Black Please. And that kind of happened because again, I do comedic speaking and I do a lot of corporate events. So I'm doing one and they would bring me in the morning. I'm like, "Why y'all bringing me in the morning?" And they're like, "Well, Allison, you're so funny to open up the Doctors Association conference or to do this such and such, first thing in the morning, you started out, the speakers follow, it's a great event, people are laughing for this all day event or whatever." So then I just started to lean into it like, "Oh, you guys are using me to be the coffee around here to wake everybody up. Comedian Allison Moore, your conference is coffee." And then one day I was on stage and they're like, "Yeah, that was amazing, Allison. We just love you. Oh my God, your personality is great. This is, yeah, you're perfect to wake everybody up." So then I'm like, "So y'all must like your coffee black." Boom, cha. And so then people are like, "Oh, wow, that is so witty." So that then made me say, with my entrepreneurial or creative brain, "Oh, I should go ahead and sell some coffee because I'm doing these speaking engagements in the morning. Instead of saying I'm going to write a book that I ain't wrote in 2 years, I keep lying about that. Then I'm going to just go ahead and sell some coffee." And that turns out that was the dumbest thing that I could have did because selling the coffee coffee business is hard. Shout out to Tim because I didn't even recognize what I was putting myself into until the pitch competition. I was there thinking about pitching, which, I'm like, "Oh, pitching is just telling your story. I could do that. I'm funny. I'm a storyteller. I got that." And then I get there, it's like, "Girl, that," and even in, I share with you some of the feedback and the energy that I got, and I tag that to the audience because I get different responses depending on people's implicit biases and things about me having the business coffee or the coffee business name Black Please because I'm a Black woman. But even aside from that, I didn't have a handle on the business model. Like, the people who were sincerely like, "Man, we really like her. This is really cool. But so what is the business?" I'm like, "Coffee." So, okay, great. So you're going to have a coffee shop. You got beans.
Right.
No. Do you know anything about coffee? No. Where are you going to get the coffee from? I don't know. But isn't it a cool name? Isn't it a fantastic story? And I pitched it. You're like, "No, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna help. You went to Norfolk State. Why don't you go brush some of the 20-year ago energy off your brain and revisit an entrepreneurial program?" So there, I got connected. Blake from Ferguson, shout out to him. He was like, "What? Norfolk State University have innovation center. Why
Hmm.
don't you? Aren't you an alum?" I was like, "Yeah, but I was there I wasn't really there for the education when I was 18. It turns out I should have been paying attention, but I didn't." So I went there, got connected with them, met Jim Franklin and company over at the Innovation Center. Shout out to them. I love them. And so then I kept running back into you, Tim. So that's my story. So that's what I've been up to since last
Yeah.
time I saw you.
And yeah, gosh, it's been a couple years since we first met.
Yes,
First met.
because we've been in the pandemic for 2 years.
That, yeah, which seems like a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And gosh,
This is
for the
probably almost a year before.
taping of this, right? What is it? Omicron is in full strength right now.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed that level heads will prevail. But
Mm-hmm.
gosh, there's a lot of stuff that I want to catch up with you
Okay.
about. And the first thing was that caught my attention was the phrase or the word edutainment. Is that something that you created, or is that something that you were like, "That's exactly what I do. I'm going to take it and run with it"?
I don't want to say I created it. because I just know that it was already there before, but I do want to be known at some point when people start thinking edutainment that I come to the top of
Yeah.
their mind, because maybe I was in the beginning of it being a very popular or sought out style of the sharing of information. And I
Mhm.
feel like for me, just in my own real learning styles, it's just I will better pay attention, better embrace it, better understanding if it just has some element of entertainment to it. Like there's some good content that I needed to know. I could not get through it because it was like, shoot me. And then I start,
Well,
I've been,
exactly. I mean,
you got it.
especially, I mean, when we look at what you do from a business standpoint, aside from the coffee side, I mean, the thought of going through, all right, it's time for annual diversity
Yes.
training. Yeah, everyone. That's when everyone wishes they had COVID because
Like,
they don't want to be around for it.
please, yes.
Whereas I'm assuming based on the edutainment phrase and term that is something that, hey, you can put a funny spin, an educational spin, and to me, you know, myself and other people, they can remember like every line from a comedy movie or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and
Yes.
and people might actually learn something from your message as opposed to the dull PowerPoint that everyone has to go through every year. Is that
Yes.
accurate in
Yes.
saying that?
Yeah, I'm like, this is recorded, right? You gonna let me get this? Because boy, did you just lay this out for us, Sister Tim. Thank you. Yeah, so that's exactly, whereas I felt like this was a problem that I can solve. And then in some spaces I realized like, man, I was created to solve this problem, and a little bit of both. But definitely that, I have some jokes that I ran into a lady the other day who she saw me when I first started performing. It was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And she was like, girl, I remember this. I remember what you said. And she repeated the joke. Now she botched the whole joke, which I was like, girl, lady, whoo, that's my work. That's my work. Get the words right. But more important, when you put your pride aside, then it's like, well, you make somebody laugh and they still remember, girl, this is still a win, right? So I'm like, wow. But how many opportunities before I came to this revelation of recognizing somebody gonna remember what you're saying, make it worth remembering. Like,
Mhm.
don't give up that mental real estate. I mean, I can't even remember the password I created this morning, let alone,
Password one.
right. That is what I need to do. But then I forget which one am I doing, password 1 or password 01. And then by the time I figure that out, I mess it up. But I realize, man, this is a beautiful opportunity to leave a mark, be helpful. If you use your gift of, you can tell a story, you can captivate your audience with, lead them with something to think about later that's really valuable. So then that way, if you need to borrow some money, then you can call them
Well,
and say,
Can I
especially
man, that
borrow?
now
made me
when
laugh.
Can I borrow some money?
You
when
gotta make me laugh.
tension is so high right now and has been for so long, where I think that being able to laugh and put some of that pressure aside is really,
Mhm.
really important right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that. So I think that that's where kind of I fell into that space as well, because especially diversity right now, it's uncomfortable for people, especially people like that are saying, okay, maybe I do want to learn a bit more about it, but I don't want to leave this situation feeling terrible. I don't, it's,
Mm.
you already gather. It's a lot to do when this, I call it courageous or bravery space, when we're already saying, all right, you know what, maybe I can benefit from sharpening up or listening a little bit more to somebody else. That's some character stuff. That's some mature stuff. That's not easy. So you don't want to take all of that anxiety, energy, and whatever, and then be left feeling depleted, terrible. You want to go cry for 3 days, but at the same time, some of this stuff is ugly. Some of this stuff is weird. How do we get there? So I just feel like, man, I've been graced with the ability to, we gonna call out these pink elephants in the room, but don't worry.
Mhm.
Turns out pink elephants ain't even trying to fight. They just weird in the way. Let's look at them. Let's laugh at them. Let's learn from it. Let's move on. We don't got to kill each other. We can grow. We can acknowledge, okay, I was wrong, or okay, or I was too embracive, or just whatever. So I just think that that's something that I'm able to do. And now I'm learning how to make that into a profitable and scalable business, which is how and why I'm so passionate about and pursuing this avenue of like, creating productions like my TV show or my diversity series, because that's where I can get off the art, the talent piece, the fun piece, but then also, scale it, use it multiple different ways, earn income or revenue off of it in multiple different ways, more than just, oh, she was funny and I saw her at that comedy club.
Well, so another question I have is, you mentioned the fact that when you went to school for your undergrad, your graduate programs, business and human resources was a focus. And I would bet that when you go to book shows with different corporations, that if somebody was to pitch HR saying, "Hey, I have this great idea, we're going to bring a comedian in to talk about diversity," that HR person is probably just pucker factor 200, because they don't want they don't want a lawsuit on their hand. But if you have HR, you kind of know the lines in which how you can straddle those lines, but still make it funny and educational. Is that accurate in saying that as well?
Yes, you're right. Because some people will say, well, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you a comedian, so everybody want to go with you. And I'm like, no, not as much. I really have to emphasize the HR piece, because the comedy piece is very scary for people, which is why I will make a joke and lean into, the irony that I share the same name with the porn star, and then really try to build up equity in. But I am the total opposite, okay? So when you think of her, don't think of me. Listen, I will never, ever, ever get y'all sued. You can call me. I know the game. I went to school for this. I owe Sally Mae for this.
Good old Sally. Right. Watch out. So something that you said a moment ago about someone that saw you 6 years ago, she botched your joke, and how you were like, oh, that's my craft. That's my thing. I think more people... So I'm going to put this on the business side of it, right? A lot of people will allow a host of a show or someone else butcher their introduction, butcher a story about them, tell something about them that they didn't live with them. So it's just their interpretation of this, probably long-winded from 17 other interviews that they watched. And like, oh, this is what I think it is. I think more people need to own their narrative and get in front of it a lot, so that thing from a repetition perspective is what they remember, right? And especially in a comedy world, I can imagine that you want that person to tell that joke, absolutely. You want that person to remember comedian Allison Moore, absolutely. But also in that, you want that joke to be pushed the right way, that narrative to be pushed the right way, so that it's not wrong and it's not butchered, so that people aren't sitting there going, well, that wasn't funny. Well, yeah, it wasn't funny because you don't know how to tell the damn joke.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. And then it's so personal, because it's like every comma, every time I in that sentence, that 11-word sentence, where I paused, where I said and, where I made a facial expression, those things make a difference. Like I literally sat down and thought and tried, or it didn't work one time. I had to go to a new place to figure out the placement and the sentence structure and the timing. So don't mess this up. Like, get it right. Tag on it. And then literally them air bubbles might make the difference between me getting $1 million Netflix special or not. So again, don't mess it up.
Where are the air bubbles?
It depends on.
Yeah, you got. I was pausing there. You didn't give me enough time to pause.
Oh, sorry, that's a part of my nervous condition. Okay,
18
do it again.
minutes and 37 seconds is what it took for comedian Allison Moore to give me a legit laugh.
Oh, wow.
I'm excited about that. I didn't know if it would happen at all.
Okay, well, so Zach, you not really the standard, but I appreciate you letting me know how long it took. Like, you would be the people, and see, you're not the audience that I would go to. See, there are different type of comedians.
Yeah, I don't have HR, so.
You say you don't have HR?
Bad joke. I mean.
So here you go to it took you 18 minutes. It took you a whole 30-minute sitcom to make me laugh, and then look at you. See, you shouldn't be judgmental.
I'm leaving.
Who would be your dream client? Would it be some seasoned, stodgy legal firm that that, man, these people are like set in their ways, or would it be a younger? I don't know. I don't know what the new Gen whatever group is. The younger than the millennials group, Gen Z. I don't know, but who's your client that you would like to that you're looking for?
The client that's not going to give me the most drama and is going to cash the check first, really. And then I'll reverse engineer and say, well, what is it about me that you love? Because I want to get more of yous. So I think, it just depends, because the people who are, like you said, stodgy and resistant to change, if they are at this point where they brought me in, then they are ready for some kind of change. And they might not have as many opinions. They're just like, just hurry up and give it to me. I'm closing my eyes. Just go ahead, give it to me so we can get it over with. Which might be easier for me to, all right, what are your challenges? You feel like that you've gotten a lot of complaints about this, and this, or recruiting is a hard thing for you, or retaining, whatever it is. I'll put some video series together, give it to them, and off they go, because they just, at that point, they trusted me. Whereas the younger generation, they might be more high maintenance, like, not necessarily the younger generation, but just a different audience or client may say, can you rechange the lighting on that? Because we was like, girl, if you don't get this DEI content, leave me alone now. So just trying to balance. And that's from that back end standpoint. I like the people who it was the easiest to do, and you can't really tell that until the end of it, which is why I like working with my clients multiple times. And I'll take a shorter thing up front to understand if I am good to serve them and vice versa before I get into this long-term situation. And so that's more my preference.
What do you do unique content for each performance? You do.
Oh, for each performance. Okay, so I do a couple of different things. If you're talking about, are you talking about like just going from comedy club to comedy club?
No, from company to company. Do you have, is it the same? Because it is a performance. I don't even look at it as a training session.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I do different things. Yes, depending on, some people, they hire me because they're having some kind of event. Maybe it's their annual employee something all day, whatever. I do a lot of those. People bring me in at some point, whether in the morning or the afternoon after lunch, to pick everybody up before they go back into their yearly boring blah blah blahs. And so I might do like some comedic motivational talk, 30-minute piece there in the morning, or host that type of situation. So that's a way that an organization regularly uses me, especially on like this live performance type space. Or they have, so like Ferguson and Apex are two of my recent clients where I created a video series that I gave them that they use internally to have conversations, or to say that they're having conversations with their employees about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So you hire me like as an individual person to come there, or we're creating video content. And that was where I've been like, the pandemic has helped me pivot and evolve in this space of like, oh, this is how I can make my same energy and efforts scalable, putting it into a video series. And then we have like a course and a workbook. And so I'm like, well, how can I get this content? Who qualifies? And my team is like, don't you got a master's degree? Oh, me. Oh, that's called imposter syndrome. Okay, I got it. We could do this. So it's like, my creative, because I like bringing the laughter and all that stuff, energy, I'm still able to do it, but in a way that I can get paid multiple times. And so now people are reaching out, because some organizations, they want to say that like they need these monthly trainings, or these monthly, because they fall into professional development and that kind of space. And then some other ones want to say they want to sponsor it because they want to show that they believe in not just we want our employees to go through this training, but they believe in the error as well. They want to be on top of the branding that, hey, we are definitely a company that supports the advancement of our minority communities, and this is what one way in which we sponsor this such and such. Am I answering? Like, I don't know
you
if I'm
are.
answering y'all right. Okay.
No, I mean, because I think that this is fascinating, just in the sense of, I mean, because when we last saw each other 2 years ago, I mean, this wasn't even
a
part
thing.
of the discussion. Yeah. I mean,
okay, so that was my next
business model.
That was my next question, right? Is did it take the pandemic for you to realize that you could have corporate clients that were in need of video series?
No, it didn't take me. It didn't take the pandemic for me to realize that I can do that. It took the pandemic for
To
me to
actually do it.
realize what I could give them. So
Okay.
like I already knew before the pandemic that like, yo, I got HR. I don't cuss and I'm funny. I could do something for them. What is it? And then, things come to you, but sometimes you don't always see it. Like
Right.
the coffee thing really came out of that experience that I was telling you about. So now I go back and I don't have coffee. I didn't even think about how you get why coffee, girl. It was just that don't sound witty. The audience was laughing. I was like,
But you know
yo,
what? I mean, to your point though, even if you had something, you have a bag of the coffee over your shoulder, even if you had on the back of the label some points, some bullet points of the material that you left behind, that's what
mhm,
talk about a great leave
yeah.
behind that. Then
It's like
everyone looks at it.
inspirational stuff up here.
Exactly. I mean, to
Uh-huh.
me, it all works. So, I mean, and it's the unfortunate timing of events and things that have happened that really has pushed how important your message is. And I mean, it just,
Right.
I don't, I mean, I don't have HR either, Zach, so don't feel bad about that. But I mean, I would, if you have the ability just to even look at some of the material that you offer, I would be really interested in that because, I mean, I'll talk to somebody and be like, someone will come back to me and be like, Tim, that's just white privilege talking. And it's just like, I don't even, where do I go to learn that kind of
Yeah.
stuff? You know?
Yeah.
So it's just like, that's the stuff
Okay,
I'm
so let me
interested in.
right there, Tim, because I have and I start to understand people through my relationships with them in comedy and how they rock with me, like when I'm just doing regular jokes. And I
Mhm.
know that I have, and so because of which I have although I don't have that many non-black friends, I have non-black audience members that I take away from and I can feel what
Mhm.
they're saying. So I know a lot of I had some of my non-black, my white brothers and sisters who was rocking with me. And then when I started wearing Black Please stuff, they were like, "Whoa, what do you mean? What is that?" And I could feel like, okay, well, you were the same person that was really laughing and so entertained by me before I got into the race conversation. So it wasn't that my mere presence made you feel weird. It's the conversation in itself. You just don't, what are you gonna say that my grandma was racist because she made me blueberry pie and I love my grandma. She was racist. She a good person. Like, wait, before we go there, just hold on. But there is this fear of if I come across as a bad person, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to you? And I just feel like I don't know that I'm the type of person that can just kind of help. Let's hold hands before we get there. We can walk through it, which is why I can have this conversation.
Isn't there some of I look at this as like people can't have conversations now. It's either you agree with me or you don't, and you can't get to that figure out where you can learn more from that. And so I feel like there's a lot of that hasn't happened recently. And it's just like, oh, like there's that missing. It's just like, so if I don't know this thing and I say this thing in a non like derogatory kind of way at all, and I genuinely didn't know that, that makes me a terrible person. And it's like you gotta, like, I can't know everything, you can't know everything, like let's peel back the onion, right? I remember specifically, I'll tell you a story where this happened to me, and my good friend Tiffany Rozier is the one who explained it to me. So about 5 years ago, Gap came out with a shirt, and there was a young black child that was wearing a monkey on his shirt. I had never heard that that was bad, or where that came from, something like that. There was a big uproar. Gap had to drop the line, and there's the big story behind it. No one ever taught me that. I never knew anything about that. I asked my friend who is black, and I said, Tiffany, explain to me where this is from, because I don't get it. She explained it to me, and I said, okay, well, now I understand why this was bad. I don't like, to me, it's like, okay, do the due diligence on your own to learn from that, so you don't make that same mistake again or do something like that again. But there should be some sort of give and take for a situation like I just went through with that. And it's like, hey, like I genuinely didn't, I just didn't know. No one taught me that. Like, like, and I don't know that you are taught something like that, but there's going to be situations like that, right? And I don't know. I mean, you teach DEI. Like, is that something that how could I have done that differently in my situation just by hearing, that quick little story.
I don't know if you needed to do anything differently. I mean, I think the way that you did it was the way that you did it, and you just learn from it. I don't think it's a right or wrong anywhere in
Sure.
that. Now, I'm not in your relationship with, what's her name, Tiffany?
Mm-hmm.
There is some space, but see, everybody is different, and I don't want to be general. I just want for everybody who's listening, chew up the meat, spit out the bones. This is just my perspective. Gauge it upon your other stuff you
Sure.
got going on and consider it. But some relationships, like was in a relationship with a white friend that is, when the George Floyd everything was going on, she was coming to me as the subject expert, and I felt like that there was an undue pressure on me to answer your questions and give you a response in which makes you feel comfortable, because you're putting more responsibility on me, and you're not even acknowledging I'm dealing with the trauma. Like, you are trying for me to explain to you how, let's say in essence, your great grandparents should be absolved of this space, when I'm trying to deal with my great grandparents. They was the ones on the receiving end of the abuse. We all traumatized. And so, like, in that relationship, it got really hard, because like, you won't read your own book, you won't do your own audio book, you won't just, instead of recognizing, wow, if this is a trending topic, somebody's feelings is hurt, it's more like their feelings shouldn't be hurt. Okay, but let's acknowledge that somebody is hurt by this, and you want me to convince you why it should be a relevant trending topic. You're not. I'm bleeding out. I grew up in the same time as you did. Like, I'm processing through right now. For elementary school, and I'm from Hampton, Virginia, we would go for our field trips every year, the annual field trip, we were going to the Williamsburg plantation, where the people that work there are dressed as slaves. And the Williamsburg plantation is a nice resort to show what, when you do well in life, this is where you can be. Could be your dream. You too can live like this in the summers. And I'm looking like, dang, that could be like my auntie. So it's just like, we are all traumatized, and it's none of our fault. But I think what our white brothers and sisters can do in times like this is just recognize that we did get the short end of the stick. Can we just start there? Can we just acknowledge Black people got the short end of the stick? And if you love the Black people in your life, just embrace what they're going through, because we all, the lights are coming on at the same time. We don't know, know, and just don't worry about it.
Well, and the thing that, I mean, to Zach's point about everything is so polarized in the sense of, it's either you agree with me or you don't. And if you don't, then we're against one another. And if we're with, then there's just that confirmation bias that goes on. And the thing that I love so much about what it is that you're doing is it's challenge me in a way to think differently in a non-threatening way.
Yeah.
And that's because one of the things, I want to forever be curious, and I want to forever learn. And as soon as you stop learning, that's when you start dying. And so I really, really appreciate what you do in the way that you do it. And it is so needed. And I wish that everybody that is listening, watching, or whatever, reach out to you, because I mean, there's so much everybody has to learn, because you just said it yourself, in the sense of, you're going through a healing period and you need time to heal, just as then all of a sudden, right away, everyone's going through a time where I need to learn. It's just like, we got to work together here. And man, I mean, so that was, wow, what a takeaway that is. I appreciate you sharing that.
No problem. I think too, like, so here's something that I really try to leave people with that's a tangible, I don't want to just be like this, ooh, I got feelings. Let's talk on some tangible tips or tools. For me, what helps me is when I'm about to go into a conversation or a situation where I understand that this is uncomfortable or could be comfortable, I try to state the intention of the conversation up front. That absolves a lot of unnecessary anxiety, fear. When I'm going into a situation, I'm like, I really want to get some understanding from this, because I feel uncomfortable every time I see it. Like, if I'm really honest up front, then it just lets the person on the other side know, okay, her line of questions is because she's trying to understand. And it just, to me, helps the other person have some, I don't want to, warfare, but that might be kind of too.
Yeah, you're not going in there
flowery, but
you're going in there trying to learn about the situation instead of seeming aggressive and defensive on something. I think
Yeah.
there's a situation like that too that Gary Plague has explained it to us, and you might know Gary from Start Peninsula. But when you're trying to give feedback to someone from their pitch, before he would give any kind of feedback, he would say, "Can I? Would you like me to give you some feedback or something like that?" And because they say yes or no, it opens the door so the person knows that, right? And so there's a parallel there where it's like, hey, instead of just going at me, because that might be how I take it, explain the intentions beforehand, or ask for permission beforehand, and that opens the door that allows a situation like that to not have some of the potential negativities behind it that all you had to do is communicate a little bit beforehand.
Yeah.
Anything else on that we should chat about before I go into something else?
No, I mean, y'all drive, because you see, I can talk. That
well, I mean, this whole thing is just, I mean, it's super fascinating is not the right word, but it is just so important. And I mean, I don't know, we can talk about this for such a long time, just in the sense of like questions that I have in terms of, again, going back to you're either with us or you're not kind of thing, and us being the polarizing sides of social media where everyone is so confident behind the keyboard.
What's interesting about that is, so I learned this from Marcus Jones, who used to be the city manager of the city of Norfolk. And so here's the guy who manages 252,000 people. He came to me one day, and he has been a great advocate for a lot of the things that I've done. Tim, have you ever met him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He said something to me, and it was mind blowing. He's like, Zach, I'm going to tell you a story about trucks. He goes, I have to make a decision on trucks in the city of Norfolk based on 10 people, because those are the 10 people that are being loud about a situation. 5 over here, 5 over here. And the people in between aren't saying a thing. So I have to sit there and figure out what's the real makeup of what's going on in the situation, because of loud people on both sides, when that isn't necessarily how the people in the middle, whatever that, correct terminology is. And I was like, that's really interesting. He goes, yeah, some people want the trucks to come at this point. Some people want the trucks to come at that point. And they're the only people who are saying anything. There's 251,992 other people that are in this city that I manage that aren't saying a thing. How am I supposed to make this decision? And so it's interesting, and I'm trying to make the parallel between those two things here, but it's just interesting how there's a lot of people who talk on both sides, but the middle is where the truth is a lot of times, and you don't actually get to see that because people, for whatever reason, don't.
Yeah. I mean, just for me, I mean, I'll make myself really vulnerable right now in the sense of there's been a really big increase in the viewpoint that by being silent, you are not part of the movement. Whether if it's Black Lives Matter or whatever the case is. So Allison, what do you tell business leaders, C-level people, in the sense of, when there is an increasing expectation that being silent is no longer acceptable anymore? What do you tell folks? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I would love to hear your take.
I still encourage people to be who they really are. And I just encourage people to be honest about it. Like, ask yourself why you're silent. Are you silent because you just don't know? Because if you just don't know, it's so much information out here. You can get consultants, you can get support to help you make good decisions. How do you want to come across? If you're silent because you don't want to touch it, then that is what it is. I don't recommend you start touching something you don't want to do, because you're going to always do everything reluctantly, half-buttedly, and it's going to come across. And then that's going to be worse later, when, because you weren't really passionate about it, you didn't put the right resources to it. And so you made a mistake that people are chewing you up for being a fraud, right? Like pretending that you care about something when you really don't. And so it's just like, just be honest with who you are. and do right and do your best in the places that you feel passionate about. And it is what it is. I mean, I think that people say, even if I have the exact opposite opinion as you, I respect the fact that you got an opinion and I know what it is. So I can move accordingly. You can move accordingly and we good.
Yeah, and like one thing that again, I'll make myself super vulnerable right now in the sense of like with this show. I mean, there's been feedback that is like, oh, you got Tim and Zach on this show, two white dudes. Where's the diversity there? And so if you look at what our audience is, we have, the different guests that we've had on the show, it's been extremely diverse. So do we have to come out and publicly say that we have the most diverse slate of guests of anywhere else, or do we just let anyone that looks to see who the previous guests are make them just they can witness that and come to that conclusion on their own? I don't know what the answer is, but to me personally, I feel like I let my actions do the talking for me, and it feels really fake for me to say, hey, you know what? 60% of the people, and I don't know what these numbers are, but 60% of the people are female, and 70% of the people that we have on the show are people of color. I don't know what it is, but I don't think that that's really authentic to come out and have to say that just because.
Seems like they're marketing towards that thing as that instead of being genuine.
I prefer to be really, really authentic.
So I remember, like, it's, what is it, late December of 2021. We started the show in late March of 20. I remember when we decided to do like episode 3, I said to Tim, we have to make sure that we have a cornucopia of guests all over the place. And from industries, from gender, from race, from everything possible, from age, everything. And so, you can't have every guest on every week, right? There's only one person on the show. So, I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is important. But in terms, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious of what your take is. I mean, is that something that we have to, from a DEI standpoint, is that something that we have to broadcast? I mean, and the thing is that we didn't go out and try to do this. We went out and we're like, hey, these are the people that we run in the same circles with, the people that we work with, that we respect, that we want to help share their story. And it just turns out it has been really, really diverse, because I think that Zach and I are really diverse people, so I mean, is that something that has to be advertised, or do we just continue to do what we do?
You said the word respect, and I really respect this conversation that we're having right now, and you guys, and I'm like a super emo and vulnerable person anyway, like I'm the type of person that I just meet the mailman and I'm like, we not in love, you don't love me, but we shared a moment. I thought no, okay. So respect, shout out to you. I think that, again, there's no wrong or right answer to that. I think that you should just do what it is that you want to do and sit in it. I am just always the type of person that just encourages, like, think through what you're thinking about. Really ask yourself why that made you feel away. Like, feel away is a real thing for me. If I feel like a ping, just how I respond, or it makes me aggy, then I'm going to be honest with myself. Like, why does this make me aggy? If you feel like, listen, I'm doing the work, I'm showing in my actions that I'm diversifying my content and that I welcome the minority community. If you feel like that your actions are enough and it's irritating you to somebody, like nagging you, like you should, but you need to, make a march about it. You need to put a poster on your, whatever, then don't do it. Don't lean into it if it aggravates you. You might be the type of person that anything anybody try to tell you to do when you know that you put in the work is aggravating to you. That might be a thing. So that's consistent across your character. Now, if you promote everything else, if you don't have no problem with promoting, sports and animals is a huge thing for a lot of people, because it's like, hey, you could talk, you share your pride, your love, your whatever for everything else in that, because somebody like, yo, why you don't do the Blackout Tuesdays once a year? No, you need to force me to do. It's just like, okay, why did that really make you mad? Let's talk about it, friend. And so, that's my thing. You just got to go with, what you go with, because what's in your heart, just ask yourself, why is it there? make the decision to say, well, it is what it is. It happened to me when I'm 7, and that's just how I'm gonna be. Or, wow, I'm at this place. I want something different for me. I'm interested in embracing something else. Or I love a person that I trust who they are, and I recognize that these things bother them. So maybe there's some merit there. Like, everybody is on their own journey, but I do just think you should just be on, because if it's not your time to lean into this, everything gonna irritate you. And that's the thing too. Even on my side of it's not some people, like, I talk to some of my Black brothers and sisters when we're having these like conversations. They just want everybody to wake up. And it's like, okay, but some people can't handle what they're going to see if they wake up, like food desert is a real thing. Food desert is a real thing. But what are the people that don't have cars? Do you guys know what I mean when I'm saying the food desert, where grocery stores are strategically placed in and out of certain communities? There are certain communities.
I invested in a company to combat that. Yeah.
Okay, so you totally get it. So it's like, I don't want to go out there and fire up somebody, telling them, hey, you're not getting the freshest of fruits. You're not, et cetera, when they don't have the resources to get to the Kroger that does have the fresh fruits. It's like, on the one hand, do I get mad at them because, like, come on, why aren't you passionate about it? How's she going to get there if she gets passionate about it? Now she even more angry and more depressed, recognizing that it is a strategic setup against her success. So, and that's why we got to watch, like, on our partnerships and our business partnerships. I'm seeing a lot of creatives that are coming to their resolutions at different times. And so therefore it's putting a restraint on those partnerships and relationships and art, because some people are like, man, this is right. We got to go. We got to run with this. We see it. And some people are like, yo, chill. Like, hold on, give me a minute. Cause I don't really fully understand what you're saying. So,
and that's the human nature of things, right? So, like, everyone's different, right? It might take me 5 minutes. It might take Tim 6 minutes. It might take you 4 minutes for whatever it is, right? And so that's very articulate and well said.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I felt myself falling victim to other people that it's just, hey, this is now part of our tagline, or we're going to throw it on our website, and then that automatically makes us diverse, and it's just, so I appreciate you sharing that insight.
It doesn't. I mean, you putting stuff like, just because people say, hey, I'm on this side, I'm in solidarity with this community, it does not mean that you do anything else, but it does mean that you don't have any problem with people feeling like you do. So that is a statement there in itself as well. And I think sometimes everybody has to understand, like, we all have to be cool with it is what it is. Like, I free my brothers and sisters that are not of the Black community to not have to march. I've never been to a march. I've funded different things. I've done things, but personally, I haven't been to a march, and it don't make me no less of a Black person. Clearly, I already make somebody feel away because I got coffee named Black, please. They already like, well, what does that mean? Like, golly, it mean coffee, but why you mad? Anyway, so, I free my brothers and sisters from taking on that charge or responding in any sort of way. But I do say, you got to be okay with how I feel about the way you respond. Like, how you respond, I want you to be honest. But then you got to respect that I then really, in this season, that I'm so sensitive, and I'm a public speaker. I am a leader to my community. I'm at this point, I got a 12th grader. I have 11th grader and a second. I got kids about to go to college, and I have influence. I have to become educated and see what's going on. That's part of my calling. So in this space, I can't necessarily hold on to the same relationships that I were holding on to before. If you're not in my community, but you ain't making me feel like you care that my community is bleeding out, we ain't be as cool as we used to be. And you have to respect that I'm not like, you're a terrible person because you don't have a window sticker. That's not what I'm saying. But you got to respect that I am saying right now, I can only be open and vulnerable with people that I feel like cry when I cry. And it's cool. Like, we still might make money together. We still can do other things together because I'm not messing up my bag. But I shouldn't be made to feel bad that I don't want to be in a tight relationship with you if you want me at the same time to feel like you shouldn't be mad that you're not telling anybody you're in a relationship with me.
Yeah. What do you tell founders or newly formed businesses, early stage businesses that want to start building a diverse team as they're getting going? What advice would you give them to start with a really, really strong foundation?
The first thing I would do is ask them what their budget is and how much energy. I would get a sense of where they're really trying to take it, because there are different founders at different places. Some founders want to do it, and there's nothing wrong with this, but some founders want to do it because they want their people to get off their back. That's a real thing. And I love my founders that are honest about it. That don't make them racist or non-racist. We got some other conversations we can have about that, but that's how they're like, look, everybody keeps saying we don't have a diversity program. I want them to shut up about this and let's get a diversity program. With that in mind, I would encourage them to create a program that is not super rigorous and that doesn't overcommit, because they're going to be irritated about this later, because people are going to, if you don't have anything, people are going to take whatever you give them. And so start off with something that's like, we're going to do an event a quarter or twice a year or once a year or whatever, or this is the holiday, we're going to celebrate Juneteenth, and just do it with joy on that day. Boom. Now, if you're a leader that you're like, you woke up in the middle of the night, or your wife just had her third baby, and you have this revelation that you need your kids to change the world and think differently and be like Tom's, the sneakers. So we're going to talk about something different. You need to be ready to roll up your sleeves. I would then say, okay, why don't you immerse yourself into some spaces where you have more empathy and understanding about it, because that type of leader, I wouldn't encourage them to expect everybody else to be the only people knowledgeable. I would say to them, all right, here's a couple of books for you to read. Here's how, open your eyes up, because like I listened to, I don't know if this was a famous person. I know Pharrell said it on one of these songs, like his Rihanna and them song, but the truth will set you free. But first it's going to piss you off. Like, we're going to get free, but this might hurt a little bit. So just depending on where the leader is, I would advise them to approach it differently. But if they see value, which they should, because at the end of the day, if your team doesn't feel included, if they feel left out, like I got fired from my last job, and my old employer would love for me to come back to work. Cause she's like, oh my God, I didn't know you had all that in you. But I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel welcome. I felt like I was a threat. I came up in there and people, the implicit biases. And I was younger then, let's say 10 years ago. So I wasn't necessarily able to articulate and advocate on my behalf. And then when you the first generation college, or you got whatever baggage you got on you, you're not really necessarily trying to go up in the office and piss everybody off anyway and just be weird and uncomfortable. And there goes the black girl, or there goes the brown girl. Like, you don't want that vibe, right? So a lot of times, we don't realize that we're missing out on top tier talent just because they don't feel safe. Like some leaders, I'll say to them, and I mean, they just had these like, so if I would have just did like 3 events, because some leaders really don't care. Then they just don't want to feel weird, like we were talking about earlier, right? It's not that they got issues, that it's just they haven't been in a space where everybody didn't feel cringe, and that's where I think my little niche makes it special, because I deliver the let's do it without the cringe. A lot of people out there do it, but let's talk about it where it's not the same type of cleanup later. So some leaders, they just didn't want the weirdness with it, but they like, dang, I didn't realize how much these people are alive and how much productivity and effectiveness that, people feel safe. Like, I don't feel like you looking at me left, or I don't feel like that you think my culture, my background is weird. I feel like you realize, bring all the weirdness, because we make more money when you feel creative and weird.
But what do you tell if founders want to do it? If they ask you the question, where do I go to find and hire black or brown people? Where do I go? What would you tell that founder that wants to make an effort to diversify the staff?
The industries are looking a little different, and also too, it depends on what part of the workforce. What are you looking for? If you are looking for fresh baby, go to the black colleges, go to the HBCUs. I mean, they're right there, boom. If you are looking for a more mature in age and life experience, and I do find value in all of the genres, I'm not the one that's going to tell you to get rid of all of your senior workforce. I'm like, before you do, y'all need to strengthen the succession plan, because that is what's missing, taking that top talent, that information and all of that from the top to the bottom. I mean, from the older to the younger. But if you're looking for a more mature workforce, I would say reach out to some of these Black civic organizations. So like, especially the ones, I mean, and that happens in other non-minority communities. Y'all got fraternity and sororities and stuff like that. Now, I'm not Greek, but I mean, it's just, think about where are the people that have gone through college, if that's a requirement, or have structure, organization, where are they? Well, they're in structures and organizations. So let me go, connect to sponsor one of their events or something.
Real quick, Zach, to follow up to that, if someone was to reach out to an organization or an HBC, would they be welcomed in making that connection and saying, hey, I want to explore that staff?
Yeah, because that's not like money. Like, come on, think about it.
Well, and I say this.
What do you want? The opportunities?
Right. And I say that because as a host of the show, I'm asking for if a viewer had that thought in their mind, not necessarily that I had that question, but it's one of those things that I would suspect that there would be someone listening to like,
that's a good point.
I don't know if I feel comfortable doing this. And you were talking earlier about do what you feel comfortable. Well, if that person doesn't feel comfortable going to the Black Chamber of Commerce, then they may not, because they may not feel as if they're welcome. So I wanted you to be able to say that to those listening, saying, go out there, reach out to them, make those connections. And then that's be the change that we all want to see.
Yeah, thanks for checking me on that and driving me in the right direction. So yeah, absolutely. Now, again, I would think about it. Why don't you feel comfortable talking to Black people at the Black Chamber of Commerce? Just think of what we're thinking about. Ask yourself, why does that make you feel away? And if you say, well, I can't move past that mountain, then don't, because hey, it is what it is. You be a great person in a different way. But if you I don't know who to talk to, or I don't know what to say, then, Google how to build relationships with minority communities. I need to write that as an article. I'm gonna write that as an article. Thank you. Or, just something like that, where, you just the internet anyway, and ask a friend. If you don't have anybody that's minority in your circle of friends, that's something that you could say too. Like, I got to be a little more aware of this. I think the biggest problem is when somebody says, I don't have any minorities as real relationships. I didn't really grow up with them. I don't really work with any of them, but I know it all. Why should this make somebody feel the way? Like, whoa, you don't think that there is, maybe you're just missing a little bit of something. Maybe you don't know. And it's okay. You don't have anybody in your life to make you know, but moments like this is what helps, people grow. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate, this moment.
In the last few years, have started listening to a lot of audiobooks. A book that I've read at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, is You Can't Make This S Up by Kevin Hart. And it's stories about his life that he's gone through. It was a recommendation from Tim. I don't know if you've read it, Allison, but it's quite comical. Something that I think is very powerful in the book is that one of his mentors, Kevin's, as he's going and doing the tours, and he's a nobody at this point, and he's in front of 7-8 people. He's like, I'm funny. I don't understand why people aren't getting into this. This mentor of him, who is like a successful comedian, says something like, "You're not telling you're not telling personal stories. You're telling things that are funny, but they're not things that you've lived through." I think in business, there's a lot of that too. Finding that human touch is really, I think, if you could say it in an articulate way, it's like finding that human touch and telling that story is there. Is that something that you found yourself that's really important, or can you make anything funny?
I think that I can make anything funny, but
then Kevin Hart was wrong.
Yeah, no, I think I can make anything funny, but I'm not saying he was wrong. But I am also, the caveat to that is, I know that people think I'm funny because of my vulnerability and my transparency. So the fact that I think I can make anything funny might be irrelevant, because nobody is around here, like, not nobody, but my fans don't say, man, oh my God, Allison is so funny because she can make anything funny. When people are like, have you heard of Allison? Like, yo, she is so funny because she talked about these very specific things that were relatable to them. So like, my biggest
key, right? The being vulnerable, the relatable aspect of it is pulling it in, I guess.
I don't think so. Important. I think it's just strategic, because you could be really, like, I got one mentor who he would tell me, about my missed opportunities when I do my content. He would say you always need to address something that the audience, everybody knows. So like he always will go through when he's going through the airport or, you know, whatever he's going, or the big highway or whatever of that community when he travels, he's going to say something about that. Now that's general, but it makes it relatable. It's not vulnerable, but it makes it relatable. And in a lot of comedians' perspective, it's a requirement in order to bond with the audience in that way. Whereas I always forget because I'm like, I write my material. I'm always in my head, super nervous. And it's a part of the growth process. And so I'm in the journey where I might forget to talk about what's right there in the room because I got these jokes that I just wrote and we gonna get through this list in my mind and I'm gonna pause and y'all not even really here. Like I'm acting from beginning to end and I want to run away from you sharks. I just wanted to make you laugh and I don't want you to talk to me.
But you're trying to pull them in and you got to do it in a way that gets them. So I remember like way back when, Tim, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but like when I started going on my circuit, I was trying to get basically some older folks to listen to me. And what I did was the business version of that, Allison, is I found out, and in this case it is vulnerable, but I tried to get everyone in that room to be listening. And I said, you all have kids, right? And they raised their hands. Oh, and your kids don't live here, right? Yeah. Wouldn't you like it if they would come back here and want to be a part of this community? And I had them all hooked because they were like, oh, I want my kids to be closer to me. Right. And so then I went on to some spiel and I told them why what I was doing was the greatest thing. But I was able to engage with the crowd and get all of those folks in there. It's a very similar situation to what you just said from that standpoint. So
yeah, definitely.
Tim?
No, if you can throw the website up there, Zach, for those that are watching, but the website is MooreLaughing, your last name, laughing.com. And you truly have a calling. And I really, really appreciate everything that you do and are continuing to do. And anyone that is just looking to book you to do some training.
And so listen, can I just say one other thing before we go? This is where our friends can see us. They might see us with me on the Virginia Natural Gas commercial. I am on that. But yeah, like she was the girl at the thermostat. I see it now. But so I have a TV show in the morning, and it's a Sky 4 we went through, and I'm going through the fundraising process and trying to get that back on TV. But it's a morning talk show, and so it's like a merge of. It's a little talk show, but a little like late night meets the morning, because I come out, I'm going to do a couple of jokes, but just this wake up on a positive note. We drink coffee and we talk about like, we have these mindsets. So today we forgiving people all day. Like one episode was if they irritate, road rage, we ready, we got it. It's like we have these pep rallies in the morning. Right. And then I bring guests on the show. We have this time next year segment so we can pull like growth and think about where we want to be this time next year. So I definitely got to get you guys on the show when I get my show back. But so tell the audience, this is my proclamation, guys, that I'm working on it, especially in Hampton Roads, because I'm Virginia's comedian, and Virginia, I'm trying to be, Virginia's Oprah. But, help. If you know somebody, tell them, call me.
Are you crying?
But thank you, guys. No.
Did we make you cry?
Come across?
I mean, you were like, you seem like really like emotional there.
I'm an actress. What we're gonna have to work on your soft skills, Zach. So if you thought that I was crying, is that your way to do it? Like you thought I was crying and you said, are you crying? I mean, it's like you're crying. Like, Zach, I know I can't be no punk around you.
How do I not say the person without saying who it is? Someone important in my life would say that I'm not funny at all, or that I was trying to pull something out of people. And that individual is probably correct after noticing many of the times here today that
I was thinking about that same thing, Zach. I'm like, I'm hoping that this person doesn't watch the last few minutes of this show, because that person would be like,
I know that person's not watching. Don't you worry. There is no doubt that person is not watching.
You were making jokes, Zach? So what was I misreading? Oh man, I don't want to be misreading because that makes me feel like a terrible guest. I want to add value and be appreciative.
You didn't do a very good job.
Oh dang! Okay, I'm gonna try again.
I'm gonna try again. Laugh there, the courtesy laugh. I get nothing.
that was a joke. These are
Ugh.
okay. This is it. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna just, I'm not famous yet, so this might not even really work. Okay, clearly.
You can use me as a story. You should talk
No,
about this
no.
guy who.
I'm not. I don't even like to. I can't even do that. First of all, I talk about people when they die. So when you die, yeah. But that's why you on, because I can't take a chance to make you feel embarrassed. But this is what I want you to work on.
Embarrass me. Be like, there was
I
this
don't.
one time I was on this podcast and he thought he was so funny and he had a bad hair day and it was all this other stuff. And the whole time he was trying to make me laugh, and it was 64 and a half minutes. And I jokingly laughed once to make him feel good. And that was even fake.
Okay, but listen, I'm sorry, but this is it.
God, I'm so not funny.
It's not. Yeah, maybe not. But here, I want to help you though. I can help you.
It's not me. It's you.
It might be. But if you ever want to try to make me laugh again, because then what is the objective? Then that's what you got to go to in the conversation. If the objective is to make me laugh, let me tell you how to make me laugh. A, make it very clear that what your jokes are, they're not insults, because you be coming across like you roasting. So I'm like he like, I'm like, oh, say something else, like I'm trying to get
okay, that's good advice.
If I already knew that, oh, this was supposed to be nice and sweet, I'm not even thinking about being on my defense. Like, I'm like, oh, so then we could go from there. But I didn't know. Not only I didn't know it was a joke, I thought you were trying to fight. Like, I'm just like,
well, okay. So in your defense, where you're trying to be funny, this was not the roast of comedian Allison Moore. I just want you to know
thank you, because I'm like sweating under my arms and stuff.
But
I'm
under
like,
the next
I
episode,
don't know why this host don't like me. Let me get a fan. So we need to sing our song. Thank you for being a friend, Zack. Now that I know he wasn't trying to roast.
This whole time she thought I was trying to roast her. I don't know if she's trying to be funny or what, but no, I wasn't.
See, and this is why people say I'm funny, because they'll say like, man, I was honest about the fact that I didn't know if this host is trying to play me or not.
Now you make me feel like, now I gotta feel like I gotta change my whole lifestyle about this.
No, we both gonna go back and watch this video again, and we are going to work with each other.
And be like, Tim's just over there laughing because he's uncomfortable about everything that's going on. This ping ponging back and forth.
She just laughed at your joke and didn't once laugh at mine. This is.
Okay, but listen to what he said. He said he was uncomfortable. I'm laughing at okay, I don't think he's trying to play me. In fact, he just said he was uncomfortable. So it is a sigh of relief, because I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Zack, I'm so sorry. Just say something else, because I'm about to laugh at you.
I got nothing. I am in a situation where I'm speechless, which you don't know me, but if you did, you would know that doesn't happen. And I feel like I've just been completely wrecked. And this is a scenario where I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to recover from. And this is about the feeling of this must be about as bad as someone creating a show on Netflix and no one watching it, because that's how I feel right now, just completely wrecked.
Well, no. Well, first of all, don't feel wrecked. And that's not a wrecking situation. Somebody creating a show on Netflix and nobody watching, don't be completely wrecked. You got a show on Netflix. I mean, you could be like me and be trying
to. They were paying everyone in 2018.
I mean, I'm sure that I don't know what the minimum salary is for Netflix, but I'm sure it can't be all that bad.
It's not all that bad. I heard of a person that I know who created a special. They haven't done anything with it, and he got $1 million from Netflix.
That's interesting. We are going a little over time, but I like, can we talk a little bit about just like Netflix in general, like, and just is there too much? Is like, are we going to wind back down? Because it's interesting how, like, in 2018, Netflix in general spent, I believe, $8 billion on content. And it's unclear where that $8 billion really went. Was it to talent? Was it to make movies? Was it to make shows? Whatever. But $8 billion is the number that's been reported. It seems like they were doing a quantity standpoint for a while, and that some shows really big, some shows didn't. Over the last 3 months, and this isn't a very big case study, and it's only from my point of view, it seems like the things that they've released are really quality, with really quality people who would watch a lot of stuff, right? So you see like The Rock and the Ryan Reynolds movie, where that was Red Notice, that was really big. There was a movie that Tim, I told you to watch, like Up in the Air or something, not Up in the Air, but Don't Look Up, something like that. lot of really A-list actors and things like that. It seems like the quality play is now in there. Is the content play, like, in your opinion, is it quantity? Is it quality? Does it matter? Like, where are you on that stand of, and it doesn't have to be Netflix, but just like, is there too much material out there now? Where do you kind of stand on that?
I don't think it's too much material out there because it's so many people, and people, we just take in content all the time. So it's always going to be a demand for content. But and also, I think there is a such thing as quality over quantity, and quantity. And like, I think all of those things are relevant, but there is also a space for a lack of quality, and just as long as it's quantity. Like, I've seen some. I started this comedy sketch. It's called the Funny Money Family series. So it's me. I play 6 characters, and there's like these different women, from a grandma to a little kid, who they're on this. They come together each week Zoom, and they're talking about, they're fun. It's just like this family that's like, look, we gonna improve our financial lives together. We're gonna do this, hold each other accountable, and it's a lot of the blind leading the blind. But that's my series. Well, I'm so hard on myself. I've done like 8 episodes, and it's just me and a homegirl, because it's not something that's making money off of it. So I can't really put all my resources into that, because I'm definitely one of those kind of people. My business, I got to eat my seed before I can even put it back into the business. So I don't have the same disposable income or resources to play with my other little. I think this could be funny. It could be a hit. Anyway, aside from that, I like so hard on myself. Like, I'm not gonna put out another one until I can. And then I look up there where I'm seeing people who they got YouTube channels that got 1 million followers, and I look at it and I'm like, where was the effort? Where was the whatever? But people watching it because they coming out on Tuesday and Thursday, or
there is a bit of luck in. I mean, there is a bit of luck into it, right? There's something that has to happen for those things to, like, because I think what you're saying is, like, there's tons of really good content out there that no one's found, and then there's people out there that put in no effort that have millions of views, and it's like, yo, you're not funny. Like, this is or whatever the piece of content is.
But see,
right?
that's the thing. I think what I've had to start to do is and I'm like really in this super self-aware. I'm holding me accountable. I'm putting the pressure on my own self. I'm making it about me season. But I don't think that there's a such thing as you can have millions of followers and not put a lot of effort into it. And I had to be honest with myself. Like, no, Allison, you just don't like it. But they're putting this piece of trash out every week. It is some effort there. And it's like the people who will say, like, Kim Kardashian, they'll be like, she don't even have a real talent. Now, I'm not a Kim Kardashian fan, and I don't care about going on record saying that I'm in the club or nothing like that. But to make your life interesting for the amount of time that she has and all her sisters put on everything, that is some talent. Because
you have to
I am fantastic.
You have to
and I can't get one video right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, at some point. But I will say that some people will embrace something because they're falling in love. Like, people don't necessarily fall in love with the content, and that's what I'm learning too. Some people fall in love with the content creator, and so therefore it's because they feel like their friend is showing up 2-3 times a week. They're gonna watch this trash until now they have.
So they like the person, and they'll watch enough of it.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no, and and then develop an acquired taste. Like, I started to drink this concoction because my friend was like, "Girl, don't you get sick? You got to drink." It is all of this nastiness in it, and after a while, I was like, "It's black seed oil, and right. So black seed oil already in itself is just car oil. So it's black seed oil in this orange juice because that's supposed to make it better. But you put ginger in it, which makes it really good. And then I put the vitamin C packet because I'm a weirdo, and garlic, which then goes back to the nastiness of the black seed oil. But for some reason, it's like,
is this like an herbal remedy or something? Because I mean, this is wow. I've never heard of it, but it's also not cheap.
Me either. My best friend was like, well. Then when I went back and told her about it, she was like, you were supposed to put it all together. So I think I made it up. She was just telling me black seed oil, orange juice, the vitamin C powder. You should have some ginger and garlic. I put it in a whole concoction. But she was like, ew, why did you? And I'm like, well, I've been drinking it for like 6 days. And now I like it in the mornings. So I think sometimes
you have something enough, you like it. Oh God.
I mean, do y'all have guilty? Some people have like their guilty pleasure shows. Like some people will say, they admit to liking something that they know is not really that great, but it's their holiday movie.
I can't tell you what mine is.
Oh, Okay, well, some people do. I've talked to a lot of people who were like, I got my trash TV, or they're,
I'm 37 years old and I still watch wrestling.
and for
See?
some people, that. Some people, that is their guilty pleasure. Wrestling for some people is like, man, I probably should be doing something else than watching all of this all day, but that's their thing. Because the wrestling gonna be there. It's it's not because they sit there and they say this is the most quality fight. It's so believable. I know that these athletes are. That's not what they saying, but that's their thing. So I think sometimes we as creators, we put too much on ourselves about this has to be the most amazing because sometimes people just, you showed up and I ain't did nothing with my little dreams that I done had since I was in the 3rd grade. So I'm proud of you. Run with it. Just keep making it. Just keep going until you grow and get better every time. And that's me, preaching to myself.
Do you think it's bad that I have a half naked rock poster of in the background of me? Is that bad?
I don't think it's bad. I don't judge you because I didn't even see all of that. You know what I mean? Like,
would you prefer the fanny pack one?
I wouldn't prefer anything for you. Like, because I want you to be you. So you I like what you like for you. You ain't my man. So I'm like, I don't care what's in the now, you know what I'm saying? If you was somebody that my homegirl was trying to hook me up with or something, and then I'm like, girl, I got on his podcast and he had a fanny pack in the back. Then that'd be something different. But like what? After this, we go on about our creative ways. So I'm happy that you got him. What you got in the background. Your background look nice. You look nice, friend.
Thank you. Yours as well.
Oh, I like you got the nice the feng shui going on.
That's because this is one of my character seats. So one of my characters of my sketch comedy, her name is Red Robin. She is a reporter, but she got a little drinking problem. Homegirl, she won't hold herself accountable.
Black seed oil.
Yeah, no, hers. Yeah, that's what she be trying to tell everybody. I'm drinking my vitamins. Okay, it ain't no vitamins, girl, but
vitamins with a splash of. Got it.
Of anything licorice. But anyway, so I'm sitting in her seat. So this is Red's seat.
Well, this has been quite a treat to end the year 2021. I've known Tim for a long time. I've never seen him laugh so much, and I've tried to make him laugh many times. So I learned a lot today about myself, about the world, and I think I'm a better person because of it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. Go out there and talk with one another, people. Don't sit back and be afraid.
Y'all gotta hype a sister up. You gotta make me
and the thing is, I think this may be the longest episode on record.
It was. At one point, I was trying to go a little longer just so that it would be that.
So that I think that is a direct relation on the quality of the guest. The fact that we talked longer with
she
you,
also
Allison,
hated on me for about 70 minutes, but that's
and that's the thing, because I was really feeling like, damn, I'm in my head like, dang, girl, you done made this man feel like he was, like, dang, and then I don't want to turn on your audience.
Now I gotta talk to him for 5 more minutes to make him feel good.
No, I wasn't feeling that. I'm like, run, retreat. You cannot make this better. You have insulted the host. What are you doing, girl? Like, I'm trying to, let's go. I don't know what to do. I'm just weird. So
the headline for me after this, when I push this out, it's going to be like comedian, fake roast host or something like that.
Well, listen, maybe you can make a little segment that could be your thing that you build off of, especially with the audience.
I think I've quit.
Roast host. Oh, okay.
I've quit my comedian tour after all these years, and it's not going to happen. I've realized it today that I can't make anyone laugh, and that.
But you don't think that could be a segment? Straight up, you don't think that could be?
Do I think it could be a segment? Of course, I think
fake
it
roast
could
toast
be,
2 minutes with Zach with the guest. Or maybe that could be how you start. Like, I'm trying to make you laugh. That could be everybody's get over their nerves. And
I learned a lot about myself today from that perspective of just like, oh, this whole time I was like waiting for Tim to laugh at my jokes and then realizing that like maybe they're just not funny. He's not getting a laugh there. Like, just like,
I'm just wondering. I'm sitting here quiet, and it's now I'm the guy. It's all on me.
Yeah, I'm gonna roast you. I want you to go run another mile in his shoes. I mean, come on. All right.
Well,
thank you for watching. Happy New Year on all those crazy things that people talk about. We would love to have you as a guest in the future because maybe you won't you'll like me a lot better then, and maybe I'll get more than 2 laughs. So appreciate it. Peace.
3. And that was a real laugh.
Got it.
Toodles,
Thanks so much,
everybody.
Allison.
Peace and pancakes,
Bye.
y'all.
So long.